Have you ever heard about a movie that hits #1, becomes the top documentary of the decade on its opening weekend, and is still considered a complete and utter bomb? Okay, we have to get into this. The story behind the Melania Trump documentary is just a wild ride of money, total chaos, and a very, very blurry line between filmmaking and, well, PR. So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the film's really confusing financials. Then, the absolute chaos that was happening on set. We'll get into the whole controversy around the director, the outside forces that were working against it, and finally, we'll try to figure out what this film actually was. All right, let's start with the money. Because on the surface, a $7 million opening weekend for a documentary, that sounds amazing, like a total home run. But as you're about to see, that number tells a completely different story. And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? I mean, it sounds so impressive. It technically made history, so how on earth could this be a financial disaster? Well, the answer starts with a number that is way, way bigger. $75 million. Yeah, you heard that right. That's how much Amazon reportedly sank into this project. We're talking $40 million just for the rights and another $35 million for promotion. All of a sudden, that $7 million opening weekend starts to look pretty tiny, huh? To put that promotional budget into perspective, just look at this. Amazon spending was, well, it was nuts. It was 10 times the budget for a typical documentary. It was even more than what they spent promoting the Taylor Swift Eras Tour movie. We're talking Super Bowl-level marketing, NFL commercials, custom popcorn buckets, the kind of stuff you save for a Marvel blockbuster, not a documentary. So you can imagine a number that big got a lot of people in the industry talking. Even former Amazon execs like Ted Hope were wondering what the real motive was here. I mean, was this really about making a hit movie, or was something else going on? The math just didn't seem to add up for a normal box office success. But hey, the weirdness didn't stop with the money. Behind the camera, things were apparently just as messy. And that leads us right into our second section, a production that was, by all accounts, just pure chaos. People who were actually there described a logistical nightmare. Just to keep up with the First Lady, they needed 3 different crews working all over the country. And crew members reported being totally overworked in this super disorganized, chaotic environment. And this chart, wow, this really tells you everything you need to know about how bad it was. It's been reported that a full two-thirds of the crew who made this movie asked to have their names taken off the credits. I mean, that's not just a red flag, that is a massive vote of no confidence. So you gotta ask, what was going on? What was the big problem? Well, some people were definitely uneasy with the whole propaganda feel of the film, but a lot of crew members pointed their fingers in one specific direction: the director, Brett Ratner. And that brings us to our third section, the director himself. His involvement was a huge story and, honestly, a massive liability for the film's public image from day one. Yeah, to put it simply, the director was a huge problem right from the jump. His controversial past, combined with his reported behavior on set, basically created a perfect storm of bad press and internal conflict. And look, this wasn't his first time making headlines for the wrong reasons. Back in 2017, he faced some very serious accusations from 6 different women. Then, more recently, his name got tied to the project again when a photo came out showing him with associates of Jeffrey Epstein. Just not a good look. And the stories from this set, they're just, wow. Insiders talked about him leaving trash everywhere. In one instance, he apparently ate his own lunch right in front of a hungry crew on a set where there was no food allowed, licking his fingers in what someone called the grubbiest way possible. So you've got this questionable $75 million investment, total chaos on set, a controversial director, and as if that wasn't enough, the movie also had to deal with some major challenges from the outside world. It was fighting a serious uphill battle. And you can't make this up. The movie, which was already bombing, was hit by a literal bomb cyclone on its opening weekend. A massive winter storm just slammed the country. 190 million people were under weather alerts, and 250 theaters had to close down. It's kind of hard to have a big opening when nobody can even get to the theater. And for the people who did manage to see it, the reaction was, well, it was completely split down the middle. Just look at this divide. A terrible 10% score from critics, but an almost perfect 99% from audiences. That's not a gap. That's a canyon. It just shows you how polarizing this whole thing was. Okay, so after all of that, the money, the chaos, the reviews, we have to ask the most important question of all. What even was this film? And this gets to the core problem with the whole project, the complete and total lack of journalistic independence. So let's get on the same page about what a documentary is supposed to be. According to an award-winning director like Julie Cohen, the second the subject of the film starts shaping their own story, it stops having any real integrity. It's just not a documentary anymore. And you know who seems to agree with that definition? Melania Trump herself. At the premiere, she got up and said, basically, some people call this a documentary. It's not. She called it a creative experience. She completely reframed the whole project on her own terms. And she wasn't kidding about shaping it. Reports say she had the final say on pretty much everything you can think of, from the huge editorial decisions all the way down to the music in the trailer, the color correction, even the design of the logo. This wasn't a portrait. It was a very carefully controlled self-portrait. And so that's where we're left. The film was a financial mess, a production nightmare, but maybe the biggest controversy is what it actually represents. It really makes you wonder, when the person on the screen is also the person calling the shots in the editing room, what are we, the audience, really watching?